Do not know what's going on January 20th, the inauguration of the next president of the United States is scheduled to take place. Joe Biden will be officially sworn in as the president of the United States. On this day, and as we'll all know just a few days ago, Trump supporters committed one of the most shocking, I guess, examples of political discord that we've ever seen in the United States. After raiding the Capitol building and creating such a scene that now Americans, I think, are generally just in shock. I mean, on both sides. I think people on the left are also in shock, but even people on the right are just stunned about what happened. I think, too, because no one, I don't think, really saw this kind of thing coming, but it appears that more is planned, and that is unfortunate thing to talk about and report on. But the FBI, federal law enforcement agents, and even localized law enforcement agents are bracing for an unprecedented threat over the next few days, not only leading up to the inauguration, but on the day of the inauguration of the next president. So officials from the Department of Homeland Security are planning to sharpen up the response and plans for inauguration day, and to make sure that, security is not only blustered for the planned event, but also for the days leading up to it, even after it for major areas. I guess in Washington, D.C., the Department of Defense is aware of, quote, further possible threats posed by would-be terrorists in the days up to including inauguration day. DC Mayor Muriel Bowser, I think I said that right, has asked for additional security measures with 10 days to go before Inauguration Day, and is asking people to avoid going to the city at all costs. On social media, there has been rumors going around that people are discussing potential planned protests. Once again, leading up to the entire inauguration, there has been rumblings of armed protests being talked about in all 50 states, at Capitol buildings and other major government buildings, which has led to federal and state partners in law enforcement having conversations about what the country can do to address threat and keep people safe during this time of presidential transition. And the entire situation that's been going on, the FBI has been making significant strides in arresting those responsible for the events that transpired in the Capitol building. Just a few days ago, it comes out that people stole things such as senators' laptops and iPads. People looted podiums from the building. It was largely vandalized. And on top of that, some of the quote-unquote protesters even were captured inside of the building with things such as zip ties, which were presumably on these people so that they could capture hostages. IEDs were found planted around the campus, even including at the DNC and RNC. I mean, honestly, just like reading this, from the head, news article, I'm baffled. I didn't even see any of those. But anyway, going back to quoting it, headquarters for each national convention for the political parties in our country. And with everything that happened at the Capitol building, there's been a lot of fear of what can potentially be happening at the Capitol building and in the surrounding area in the next few days. As a matter of fact, the Washington Monument is going to be closed for several days, all the way up through the 24th of January. Due to this, to prevent people from going to it and basically having these protesters and situation getting out of hand, and to protect innocent people from being harmed. As well as, according to the news outlets, not only will layers of security be used to protect the inauguration event, but also standoff distancing and tactical teams being placed on standby will also be there to prevent the biggest concerns from being reality. They're also planning for things such as an active shooting scenario, vehicle rammings, and the deliberate targeting of critical infrastructure for the United States government. The D.C. mayor also asked the Trump administration for an emergency declaration for Washington, D.C. area, and also called on the Department of Homeland Security to extend their preparations to help defend the area in case, any sort of terror situation could unfold. Key intelligence is suggesting that further violence is likely during the inaugural period. And she was quoted as saying, quote, "I will tell you that given the events of the last week that the inauguration preparation has to be different than any other inauguration, and the mayor has asked the Department of Homeland Security to extend this national special security event period from January 11th to the 24th, which is an extension of the plan from January 19th to the 21st, which is basically just surrounding the inauguration day." The mayor also asked for the Department of Homeland Security to cooperate with the Department of Defense, Congress, and the Supreme Court to establish what they call a security perimeter, with federal forces around the federal property, which hypothetically would free up the local metropolitan police department to focus on normal city duties instead of having to be tasked with potential for unrest with the entire situation going. And as said before, the National Park Service announced on Monday that they will be closing the Washington Monument for more than 2 weeks, which also includes the inauguration to be basically prevent potential violence from occurring. They're also against potentially innocent and unarmed people. And they also said that, quote, they may institute temporary closures of public access to roadways, parking areas, and restrooms within the National Mall and Memorial Parks if conditions warrant to protect public safety and park resources. Twitter has been tracking the latest plans for armed protests and also announced that this when they permanently suspended Donald Trump's account on Friday. The CEO of Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, I don't know how can I say that, but was quoted as saying, quote, we fully expect that the violence could actually get worse before it gets better. And the former DHS official told CNN that from the perspective of extremists, the people of an attack like last week's was not to destroy the Capitol, but, quote, to show that a relatively small number of people can actually take over the system, to be rallying cry for join us or you're now the enemy. Security requests and situations have not been limited to the capital of the United States. Though, as a matter of fact, outside of Washington, D.C., local authorities have had to grapple with threats and increase security needs and incidents. As well as a matter of fact, on Saturday afternoon, an unlawful assembly was declared in San Diego, California, after protesters had clashed and threw objects at police officers. And according to tweets from the San Diego Police Department, these protesters threw rock bottles and eggs at officers shortly after they were asked to disperse. Tweets also suggested that pepper spray was used as weapons from the crowd against police officers, and the unlawful assembly was declared about an hour and a half after the pro-Trump and counter-protesters had gathered near the beaches of San Diego. On the same day as the siege in Washington, D.C., the Texas State Capitol building and grounds had been closed to the public of an abundance of caution. This is all according to a statement from the Texas Department of Public Safety. And protesters had taken to the Capitol grounds after an Operation Occupy the Capitol, Texas event had been created on Facebook, and the United States military is also starting to get involved. As a matter of fact, Washington State Democratic Governor Jay Inslee announced that on Friday that he was mobilizing up to 750 members of the National Guard to provide security for the beginning of the state's legislative session, which starts on Monday, saying that, quote, the actions that we saw in both Washington, D.C. and in Olympia in Washington state earlier this week were completely unacceptable and will not be repeated in our state. Again, this followed after protesters occupied the state's This followed after protesters occupied the steps of the state capitol on Wednesday, and dozens of people broke through the outer grounds of the governor's mansion before being peacefully turned back by state troopers, quote, in light of this most recent insurrection activity that the state cannot tolerate any actions that could result in harm, mayhem, or interruptions any function of democratic institutions, said by Inslee on Friday evening. And in addition to National Guardsmen, the governor says that a large number of Washington State Patrol troopers will be on hand to help restore order. Also, in the New Jersey State Homeland Security officers are tracking planned events for both January 17th and January 20th, as well as, quote, several one-off protesters that they are still determining that the credibility for some online rhetoric has apparently called for protesters at all 50 states capitals, plus DC and the FBI in particular has continued to, I guess, assess these threats as they're at the state level. So while DC is bracing for the large-scale protest and potential violence over the next few days, it's apparent that the United States itself is facing an unprecedented threat. With this political mayhem and requests for up to 10,000, potentially 13,000 National Guard units to be moved into Washington, D.C. to help keep order throughout the next few weeks, have been made, meaning that, it's being taken seriously, okay? This is a situation that I think of this country needs to take seriously. We already saw what happens when you don't take stuff like this seriously. Apparently, this is something that had been planned for in a long time. This whole insurrection, these riots, these quote unquote protesters, whatever you want to call them, I had not heard that they were being planned. I mean, I know like that Donald Trump was calling on people to protest, but I did not know that they planned was to storm the Capitol or anything crazy like this. But I mean, now that we've seen this situation unfolding in the country is plunging into like the political chaos over this entire thing. It's only a matter of time before something bad happens, and something needs to be done to try and mitigate the threat the country is facing right now. So with that being said, though, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure that you leave a like, subscribe. If you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over Twitter and Twitch. Also on Instagram, sub to me as Salamin. Make sure to check out down below. Thank you to my channel members. Your support helps my channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Salamin. While watching this all unfold and signing out to you.